Yes.
Bismillah. Begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim wa salli alayhi. Viewers, barakallah, thank you very much for joining in. The link is coming around, and inshallah, as soon as you receive this, we'll be starting our discussion. So we'll give the viewers a few minutes to join in. Whilst we are waiting, inshallah, I'll introduce my my panel here with myself on my left. So on your screen, it will be on your right. We have Hafiz Imam Umair, who is the Imam and head teacher of Quba Masjid in Stockport. On his further left, we have brother who's a businessman who's been living in this country for over 40 years. Sheikh, is that correct? 40 years you've been in this country?
40 years, inshallah.
MashaAllah. 40 years he's been here. And as I know, as I understand, you run a business here?
Yes.
MashaAllah. And how are you? How's business? How's everything going?
Alhamdulillah, everything going very well. Just we keep going, as we said.
How we keep going, as you said. MashaAllah. Okay, the link is coming around. Inshallah. So we'll begin by first with the ayah of the Quran, which I read this morning in the khutbah as well. Allah Rabbul Alameen says that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah Ta'ala doesn't change the state of a nation until we change ourselves. And over here, the indication in the ayah is that this change must start from within. We must change ourselves first. And unless that change at an individual level does not take place, we can't expect for the bigger change for the Ummah. And a lot of discussion on this, inshallah, will be taking place. Last week, we had a superb and amazing a podcast session in which we were joined by Sheikh Muhammad from Interpal, which majority of the Arab communities is fond of, knows him really well. And inshallah, today we have another a guest who's also from Palestine, who knows the ground realities really well versed in his understanding of what's happening on the ground. So we'll begin with him, Sheikh. The images we've been seeing since the beginning, at the end of Ramadan, last 10 days of Ramadan.
Yes.
How true are they? Because a lot of the time the question is, are these old images, or is this something that is just a minor? How true is what we saw happening in the last 10 days of Ramadan?
Well, I mean, if we looked at, let us start with Jerusalem. That's where is the focus started, in Al-Aqsa Mosque and in Sheikh Jarrah area, where is the Israelis, they're trying to displace the people of Sheikh Jarrah and place them with the so-called settler, but actually they are colonizers. And also the daily incursions of the Israeli colonizers supported by the Israeli army and the Israeli police onto Al-Aqsa Mosque during the prayers, during especially Taraweeh, and during the worshipping of the Muslim people worshipping times. That has inflamed the Palestinian street first, whether in Gaza Strip or in the West Bank or in Palestine, the pre-48. And this is our true and images of what we see daily, and people in Jerusalem especially, they see it daily and happen to them daily by the Israeli army, by also the far right wing Zionist colonizers in the area. The whole idea of this, what we saw in Jerusalem, it is they want literally East Jerusalem to be a purely a Jewish area, full of colonizers. They bring them from outside the area, from whether Eastern Europe, America, and Europe, and trying them to settle them in the places where the Palestinians, they have been living generation after generation.
So, on the, what I recall is 27th night of Ramadan is when they first attacked Masjid al-Aqsa whilst they praying. Yeah. Now, the question is, why did they attack? What was the purpose behind them attacking?
Well, there is the myth of the temple mount there. The
Yeah.
whole idea, the Israelis and the Zionists, they want to knock down Al-Aqsa Mosque and build the temple there. So that's why all this, and especially since Netanyahu been in power, if we notice Netanyahu in the past so many years, this is the third or the fourth election, Israeli election, and Netanyahu still cannot form a government. So he's still caretaker, and Netanyahu want to form the government to escape the corruption court, which is waiting. He's waiting to be brought in before the Israeli court for corruption. So Netanyahu, of course, as a right-wing person, a Zionist, he's been brought up to hate anything called Palestine, Palestinian, and Muslims. So he's trying his hard to cultivate all these right-wing and colonizers around him to give him the power. In the fourth election or the fifth election he's trying to organize, so to give him the chance to to form his government, so he can of course go with the rest of colonization of the West Bank and and of course the full annexation of Jerusalem, and so become, as we seen in during Trump era, Jerusalem, the American have moved their embassy to Jerusalem, which is that it is illegal against United Nations resolution and Geneva Convention, because East Jerusalem, it is occupied 67, and therefore it is an occupied territory. It cannot be annexed to Israel.
Allahu Akbar. And we know that also we've all witnessed, I think, the video of Netanyahu, where I think this morning or the day before, the leaked video where he's actually having a conversation and he's applauding, he's actually pushing people forward for this. And he's in favor of all this oppression that's taking place.
Of course.
And it's as if they thrive over seeing Muslim blood being shed.
Well,
is that really the reality? Is that what we feel?
This is Netanyahu. Netanyahu thrive. Netanyahu, it is he built up his image on seeing,
and now he's keeping that image up.
And keeping that image up. Netanyahu, he literally want a Jewish state.
That's why he's
after a Jewish Israel, between two brackets, Israeli Jewish state. Only Jewish, and other people who are non-Jewish will be second and third citizen.
So now I want to ask you, there's a video going around on social media in which there's a video in a school, and it's a Jewish school, and the teachers are teaching the students, the children, of hating non-Jewish people, whoever they be. Does this actually happen in the schools in Jerusalem?
And this is not just in Jerusalem, also in the schools in the pre-48, and also in the what's they call the settlement in the West Bank, which is the colonizing area, the area they have confiscated from Palestinians and built their settlement on it. It is true. I mean, and there is lots of pictures and images, and in my eyes, I have seen it in Jerusalem itself, in my visits to Jerusalem, or especially to Jerusalem. You see them, young Jewish kids with their machine gun, submachine guns on their side.
Real machine guns?
Real machine guns. It's an Israeli make Uzi machine guns. Yes, and if you look if you go on YouTube, you will see this is happening.
You've actually had
yes,
had experience of
I have seen them walking in the old city of Jerusalem. I have seen them, yes.
No, I mean,
and then what do they do with those guns? Do they?
They are understanding. They are for their protection. That's what the whole
is this what you're talking about?
This is what I'm talking about. This is the school. Yes, This is the school, yeah.
So stuff like this is actually now the whole point of sharing this with our viewers is to give the ground reality. This is somebody that's been there.
Yeah.
This is somebody that has seen this taking place. This is somebody who's seen those children walking in the old Jerusalem with these machine guns and basically terrorizing the public or the community, isn't it?
We have to remember, they took that part by gun, and they are the only way for them to keep it and stay in it. It is by the gun.
With the gun. Okay.
With the gun.
Yeah.
This is the myth. God give the Jewish Palestine or land in there. It's a myth. Otherwise, if God gave it to them, I'm sure we are Muslim, we would have read it in the Quran. We have most probably Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have mentioned it in his hadith. But of course, this is what we call the Zionist ideology. That's what they've been taught and drummed in their brain from the very, very, very young age.
So, okay, that's what they've been taught from a young age. The Palestinians that live there right now, what future do they see? I mean, to the viewers, before we start to give solutions and we start to discuss how we can support the Palestinians, I want everyone to have a feel of what's happening on the ground, what the Palestinians are feeling right now.
We need to look at Gaza now in this situation. Really, Gaza will give you the perfect example on how the Palestinian living. Gaza since 2006 been under Israeli siege. It's literally
from all sides.
From all sides. From all sides under Israeli siege. They cannot go in and out. And for example, electricity, only 4 to 6 hours a day of electricity there, because.
And the remaining time?
Sorry.
And the remaining time, there's no electricity?
Actually, now, since the last war, or the one just happened, electricity is coming 3 hours a day.
Allah.
Because there were only 3 lines, and the Israeli, they destroyed 2 lines.
Allah.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do they charge their phones? How do they do their daily activities? I mean, ironing, cooking, cleaning.
You know, I put my hands up. I take my hat to the people of Gaza. They are innovators in everything.
Allahu Akbar.
They're making the impossible to be possible.
Subhanallah.
They are very great people, really.
I mean, they've
People
not
to be
given up
proud
whatsoever.
of, to be associated with them.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
So what's the purpose behind Israel attacking Gaza then?
See, Israel.
Why Gaza?
Why Gaza? Because, as I said, to attack the West, Gaza, it is 360 square meter. Yeah, it is small enclave. Yeah.
Okay.
In some area, the width of it's only 5 kilometers.
That's it.
And it is very populated. So wherever they hit, they're going to kill. And how can you harm people or put pressure on their leadership? It's only by killing the innocent, the civilian people. Because in 2014 and in recently, all what they attacked and they hurt and they killed are civilian people, families, from father to mother to children. They have disappeared of life. Yeah, they cease to exist.
So how do they survive then, Sheikh?
Survive with miracle. Survive with miracle. I mean, the average population in Gaza, it is the average age. Sorry, in Gaza, you're talking about 17, 18. So there is some young boys, girls. They're born during the siege, and they lived so far, all their living times, life so far, in an open prison. So they have to survive. As I said to you, they make the impossible possible, these people. You speak to to 5-6 years old boy from Gaza. He lifts your spirit so high. From the way he talks, it's people to be proud to be associated with. And
is it possible for us Westerners to go visit Gaza right now? Well, I know you can go to Al-Aqsa. Can you go to Gaza right now?
No, Gaza. It is very difficult for people from the people from Gaza who live outside. It is difficult for them to enter. let alone people with no ties to the area.
Why is that?
Because we go again, it is due to Israeli blockade, because Israel control the main entry points into Gaza.
So
and there is one entry point through Egypt, and
Okay.
this is open sort of within certain times.
Okay. There are set times when that is
That
open.
set times, and still there is a procedure need to be done. So really, to go to Gaza,
It's impossible.
you're talking about at least 2 days of travel from Egypt to get to Gaza due to the distance and borders and harassments on borders.
So, when we look at the media, and whenever this collision between Israel and Gaza happens, we hear a organization called Hamas, who they say is a terrorist organization who attacks back to Israel. Now, what is the reality in this? Is it Hamas? Is it the public? Or is it just a reaction by people?
I mean, if we look at it, when all these what's called incursions and harassments happen to Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the popular of the Palestinian population have risen up against this, in support of their fellow brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So, and the thing, we have to look at it, it is not Hamas Israel, it is Israel Palestine. Israel does not want something called the identity of Palestinian exist.
So that's what they're trying to wipe out. That's what
To
they're trying to
wipe
clean
out.
altogether.
And of course, they need an excuse. They need, of course, here, in anywhere, you need to show yourself. You are the innocent and the victim. So, of course, they refer to whether Hamas, Jihad Islami, or Fatah as a terrorist organizations. Anybody attacks Israel is subhanallah, become a terrorist. Yet, by international law, whether Geneva Convention or United Nations resolution, as a people under occupation, we have the right to defend, to fight for our freedom and
That's of course,
self-determination.
anyone who would do that. If you attack my home, I will want to defend myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you fight with the weapon you have, I mean, comparing the two, you have kids with stones. On the other side, you've got a nuclear armed nation.
Who's more dangerous? Is a kid with a stone or a soldiers with the rifle?
I mean,
Who's
that's,
more
that's, that's
dangerous?
obviously a no-brainer. And look at some of the statistics that we have here from recent times. Now, especially in the last 3-4 weeks,
Yes.
total number of Palestinians that have died. I mean, we are not in favor of anyone's life being lost.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what happens is civilians are the ones that lose out.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with it. Yet they're stuck in the middle. Now, total casualties on the Israeli side are 12 people died. On Palestinian side, we have more than 250 people that have died, amongst which 66 are children, 39 are women. More than 2,000 have been wounded. 33 media institutions have been destroyed, and 1,800 housing units destroyed altogether, and over 91,000 displaced.
So after all this statistic you gave me, who's
Yeah.
the terrorist here?
Who's the one that's actually terrorizing?
Who's terrorizing who's? Yeah. When in the last day before the ceasefire, there were 152 F-16 over Gaza. You're talking about they were literally wing by wing, side by side, bombarding Gaza, almost as carpet bombing to Gaza.
Allah.
How many buildings have been risen to the ground? We seen it on
TV. Yes.
on TV.
Yeah.
Sheikh, you're in contact with your family there. What's their reaction? Have you spoken to them?
Of course, I was speaking to my colleagues and my friends in Gaza Strip on daily basis to see what's happened, and some of the videos or the picture they sent me, it's horrific. It's horrific. You cannot see it. I mean, when you see a child being mutilated, to be able to bury that child, they had to collect the pieces.
Allah,
And some
Allah,
kids,
Allah.
some I've heard the stories, and from confirmed sources, some people they couldn't bury them because they
couldn't find them.
They couldn't find them to bury them.
This is happening. This is the ground reality.
Yeah.
The ground. there is a story of him. Two brothers, they decided to split their family into two halves. One half of the first brother stay with the second brother house, and one half of the second brother come and stay with the first brother. On the understanding, if one house got blown up and they killed at least some of the first or the second brother,
they will survive.
I mean, something like this, if your heart does not break for it, or tears come, you don't shed tears, that's mean you have no compassion.
So these are the sacrifices people are making.
These are the sacrifices people, they have to pay. And it's not the first. Palestinians, they have been paying these sacrificing since 48. How many massacres, genocide, and villages, they've been erased to the ground and expelled their inhabitants and the people. And that's why we've got more refugees camped than towns. Whether in Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, or in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Syria. I mean, there is refugees camps everywhere, and these people, where they originated from, villages and cities where the Israelis, the Zionists, they went in and terrorized the people and forced them to flee their home.
Sheikh, I have an article here. This was released on BBC News, and it's the UN Human Rights Council has voted to investigate violence in the recent conflict between Israel and Hamas. They don't even call it Israel and Palestine.
Of course.
It's called straight Israel and Hamas. And one question before I move on. I want to read this article.
Yes.
So in case somebody says, look, I've not had a chance to read this article, I'll read it out to you today. So this conflict, I mean, what's happened, especially in the last 10 days of Ramadan? On the news outlets, whether it be BBC, CNN, Sky, anywhere, nobody is talking of the oppression and the attack that happened upon the Musallis, those that were praying Salah in Masjid al-Aqsa. Is that where it started, or is there something else that started this, that triggered this?
The start of it, the contributor of it, as I said, it is the attack on the prayers.
Is that where it ultimately started? Of
course, it started there, and the rest of the Palestinian people, as also over here. I mean, demonstrations everywhere. In countries you wouldn't think there would be demonstrations. I mean, in Manchester there was 3-4 at the same day. In Bolton, where I live, there were also demonstrations.
Ourselves, this team of Naveed Ramadan, we attended the one in London. We were told there was one the day before, 150,000.
150,000.
And this weekend there was an ijtima of 200,000 people.
So, I mean, all this, because the attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque that's the ignition for that uprising, for that to blow up. And
so that's where all of this started. So it wasn't Hamas in any way that started this.
Whether Hamas Jihad Islami or let us say Hamas Jihad Islami Fatah, let us say the Palestinian fighters, if they started it in support of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa Mosque, to us to Muslim in general, let alone to us Palestinians,
Muslims, of course.
It is very, very, very important place. We cannot, I mean, who on earth could sit and watch people being harassed, people being attacked, people being, whether young, elderly, male, female, with that atrocity, from the colonizers, the so-called settlers, to the army, to the police also, and sit and watch and not move.
So, Sheikh, Israel is in between many Muslim countries. Okay, it's in the middle of all these Muslim countries, but yet none of the Muslim countries you see,
especially the Arab countries,
none of them have spoken. None of them speak.
You're taking me to another spectrum, brother. But mashallah, yes, mashallah. Let us concentrate on the people. Forget the leaderships. Yes, look at in Malaysia, in Turkey. Mashallah, Erdogan, he have warned Israel. In Pakistan, also they warned Israel. in the people of Jordan, whether they massed on the border, and the Jordanian army had to stop them, whether for their safety or for other reason, God knows. People from the Iraqi people, they massed on the Iraqi Jordanian people and the Iraqi Jordanian border, and understand they want to carry on going to
Al-Aqsa.
To Al-Aqsa. But brother, the thing recently, the issue of Palestine, for one reason or the other, was pushed aside, and we noticed lots of so-called normalization. And yet, to understand what's the benefit of this normalization I'm talking about here between Arab countries, for like United Arab Emirates,
because they've all recognized Israel, haven't they?
I mean, see, the thing, politics, it is in the Middle East, it's weird matter.
See, when we, as the entire Ummah, we're speaking upon this.
Yeah.
But the Arab countries have not spoken on this at all.
Can you repeat the ayah you read earlier on, brother?
The ayah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ
حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. Inshallah, we are into this now, because I am 61 years old. Believe me, I have never ever seen so much support and uprising for the
Palestinian cause.
For the Palestinian cause, and especially for Al-Aqsa, and also for not standing and seeing Gaza and the people of Gaza being slaughtered.
So this is the side reaction, isn't it?
I think
the reaction to that is.
But this is not a reaction which is going to calm down.
Ameen. We all hope. We make dua that
inshallah, this is not reaction is going to come.
But this keeps happening. Sheikh, this is the thing that in 2014 happened, where the attacks on Gaza happened. We saw a reaction in the Muslim world. Everything calmed down.
But if you look at it, the reaction in 2014 wasn't like the reaction of today. I remember 78, 88 with the Palestinian uprising, when the child met the Israeli tank with the stone.
Yes, that famous image.
That's Faris, God bless his soul. They have to bring a sniper to stop it.
Allah.
Faris Awad, I think he's from Gaza. Yeah, and you've seen the people here, buses and buses from Manchester, from Newcastle, from everywhere going, merging on London for demonstration. The support, it is there among the people, but we need to put pressure on governments, because it is the governments who, especially us here, we live in Britain, we need to put the pressure on the British government, to the government, not the parliament, because believe me, if we have a vote on the right of Palestine and the Palestinian people, it will pass. But we need to force the government to recognize the state of Palestine and the right of Palestinians as what's called, according to United Nations Resolution 242 and 338.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the resolution over here, they was passed, I think, a few days ago, where they were considering the human rights investigation. The statistics I have here, I think there was a total of 14. Okay, I'll read it here. 9 members, including Western countries, voted against the resolution that there should not be an investigation. 14 abstained, and China and Russia were amongst those that were in favor of this investigation taking place. You're talking about the UK, that we should force our government. Yeah. This government, unfortunately, also voted against the This is weak. This happened.
Yes.
Even after seeing 200,000 people, 150,000 people.
Not just that.
You're talking about demonstration up and down the entire country, buses, all this happening.
See, that's why. Because
why is there not that influence? What's happening?
This influence only comes when really people put pressure on their MPs, and their MPs will put the pressure in the House of Commons. Because, for example, in the next general election, if me and you, we came to our MP and we said, Mr. MP, if you don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm not giving you my vote. He'll think twice about it. And yes, if he didn't do it, next election, I'm not giving you my vote, and you don't give him vote. The problem, if we look at it, see whether the government or the shadow government, both of them are controlled by the Jewish lobby here, or the Zionist lobby. I mean, Keir Starmer, he refuses to condemn the attack on Gaza.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's one individual that's speaking up.
But the thing, that's Keir Starmer, he is going to be he could be the prime minister next time. So imagine that.
And how much support he will then have. And then he's actually he's in favor of the Muslim Ummah then, isn't it?
No,
Which even the Muslim MPs could not do, that individual is doing.
So individuals, we cannot, I mean, there is what's called individual MPs who have spoke highly of, who has spoke and criticized the government, and some of them criticize their own shadow government for sitting on the fence and doing nothing.
Okay, coming to the solution and supporting the Palestinians.
Yeah.
We've already mentioned one. And I think sitting from here, and this is what, to my understanding, which I've asked some Palestinian brothers, that the entire Palestinian nation is looking to the West, and especially people in the UK. And when I speak of the UK, majority of our viewers will be from the UK.
Yeah.
They look to us for support.
Yeah.
The bare minimum we can do is at least put pressure on our MPs. Demand of them to support the recognition of Palestine. Correct?
Correct, because
that's the bare minimum we can do.
The bare minimum for us, yes, but keeping this little, we need to keep the issue of Palestine and the Palestinian people
as
on
a priority.
The agenda.
Yes,
as priority, yes.
On our agenda, yeah.
On our agenda, we don't want to, as our brother Sheikh said, we don't want to let it fade away, like what's happened a few months ago before Ramadan, when you don't hear anything. I mean, look at the news nowadays. And thanks, we've got the social media. We don't need to listen, alhamdulillah, to BBC just because BBC have put 12 Israeli killed.
Yeah, I've seen that.
100 Palestinians died.
Yeah.
Died of heart attack, died of corona, died of what? Why don't you say they were killed by an Israeli bombardment?
Yeah.
350 rocket. 3 days ago they collected from different area in Gaza. They did not explode. There is a rocket, I got the picture of it today. A friend of mine sent it to me. It's in a house in the suburb of Khan Yunis in Gaza. It did not explode.
What is there?
That rocket, yes, it is there.
Now what happens with the rocket there?
If that rocket, I mean, the people will come and pick it up. The specialized people will come and pick it up.
Because the specialist team will come and
take it away. A specialist team will have to come and pick it up.
Can that not be picked up and thrown back?
Well,
that's dangerous.
Inshallah.
Because ultimately, speak of the
Palestinians. We will have to give them. It's belong to them. We have to give it back to them. But how? That's a different issue.
Okay.
Whether wrap it in a nice gift, or the way they threw it will lob it.
Okay. Ideally, is that not what any nation being oppressed will do? Regardless.
Oppression, it's against all form of laws. But when it's come to Palestinian, no, it's okay for the Palestinian to.
The thing is, it's this kind of oppression you see across the Muslim world. Across the Muslim world, you start from Libya, right, Morocco, and you go all the way down to Malaysia. Okay, everywhere is always the Muslims. Muslim oppression, the public, the citizens, they're being killed. Okay, but our leaders, they're just asleep. Okay. None of them are able to speak.
Because
you're talking about Turkey here. Okay, I was reading a statistic about Turkey that on the other hand they're saying that Israel is a terrorist, but on the same hand they are dealing with Israel. $4 billion were given to Israel by Turkey.
See, this is what we say it is an international politics.
Yeah.
and it's most probably for us it's very difficult to understand, but no, it's not difficult to understand. At the end of the day, these leaders, they're working for their own benefit and their benefits only. That's what I can say.
We've lost that unity, really. I mean,
We
like the
have
hadith says,
lost it.
"Istaka aynuhu, istaka badanuhu."
Yeah.
That if the eye is in pain, then the entire body is in pain.
Absolutely.
If the head is in pain, then the entire body is in pain.
Because
right now, what's happening is, this nationalism, this nationalist concept.
Yeah.
Each country, my flag, my country, my land. Nobody's really concerned.
That's what's the West, and that's what the Zionist movement in general wanted.
Yeah.
How can we bring all of these nations back together, Sheikh? What's your feel? I mean, you've lived a good life, 60 years, mashallah. May Allah give you long, healthy life as well. I mean, and that, from your experience, what do you see?
To see
How can the Ummah come back?
What you said, we need to be Ummah, not nations.
Allahu Akbar.
We need to be Ummah, not nations.
Not think of nations. We need to think as an Ummah.
I mean, look at our history. Tariq bin Ziyad, he was here in Gibraltar.
Yeah.
He wasn't an Arab,
Sahih.
but he was a Muslim. Salah ad-Din, the one who went and liberated Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa Mosque from the Crusaders.
Yeah.
He's a Kurdish. He's a Muslim. He didn't say I am a Kurdish. He's a Muslim.
He went as a Muslim.
Yeah. Muhammad al-Fatih, from Al-Uthmaniyun.
Yeah.
He didn't say I am a Turkish. He said I am a Muslim.
Subhanallah.
So we need to go back.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need to go back.
I mean, this is what I was speaking of on the Jummah today as well, sir,
Yeah.
on the Jummah khutbah. Like this ayah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. This movement is going to start at an individual level. That's where it needs to start. Rather than speaking of what's happening, what our leadership is doing, we need to start this at an individual level. And simple maths, 1 and 1 makes 2. 2 and 2 makes 4. 4 and 4 makes 8. If at an individual level we start this movement where we work as an ummah, we love one another because of being one ummah, because of being one body.
Yeah.
As we will, this movement will move on hand in hand, and that's where this rise will happen. Until that doesn't take place, realistically, we can continue protesting. Is that going to make any big difference?
See, of course. I mean, this is
because the MPs they're not going to listen.
The lowest form of what's called struggle, if we will, or fighting for the cause. Because here, that's what we can do.
Yeah.
That's what we can do, and these protests, it will put pressure on the government. Look, yesterday or the day before in in Ireland, they have voted and passed Israel. It is an occupier country.
Yeah, and they've banned all goods as well.
And that's it. The other thing, and that's very important, we need to boycott any produce from Israel, and especially from the settlements. Or the colonizers, because this is Palestinian land.
But we can't do that. You see, I'll give you an example. In Ramadan, we had the issue of Pakistan and France. Okay, you must have heard of the one of the MPs. They wanted to remove him from Pakistan. A French ambassador, they wanted to remove him from Pakistan, and the issue was the leaders of Pakistan. They were saying we can't remove this person, and nor can we ban the products of France from Pakistan. Reason being, if we do it, then our loan, our funding that we get from France will end. See, this is the issue that we have. That if you try to do that, you will be blocked off by saying, okay, we'll stop this.
See, here we can do it. And don't compare France to Israel, because Pakistan, alhamdulillah, does not deal with Israel, although being pressure on Pakistan and Imran Khan to recognize Israel, and he refused it. The issue is you cannot compare the issue of France to the issue of Israel, because yes, Pakistan has got benefits from whether loans, whether manufacturing, whether other means, but has got nothing for Israel. Here, us, me, you, our brother there, all of us, we boycott anything of Israeli product. You go to supermarket, produce of Israel, leave it on the shelf. I mean, there was what's called date. Majdul date. I think there is because there is Majdul date produce of Jordan, Majdul date produce of Palestinians,
and produce of Israel as well.
Israel. The Muslim Council in London have refused to put it on for iftar. Keir Starmer did not turn up to that iftar because they have boycotted the Israeli dates.
So it does have an impact.
It does have impact. It does have. No, I mean, Israel maybe did not lose in human being, but lost in other means. They had to close the airport. They had their gas supply got interrupted, and the what's called the tourist industry got interrupted. What's called the damage to the economy.
The entire economy.
The entire economy. Yes, it had impact.
That's what we can do from here, from the UK at least.
We can do that. Yes.
Okay.
And
which other
also, the negative immigration. Now there is Jewish people who've been promised land of honey and milk. It's not land of honey and milk. It's very difficult land to live in it, especially if you're coming from Eastern Europe, from America, from Manchester here. It's not very difficult. So there will be, inshallah, negative immigration.
So that two solutions have been given so far. One being that we
pressurize
our MPs.
Yeah.
Secondly, we've said financially you disturb the economy by refusing to use their products.
But boycotting anything, any produce of Israel whatsoever.
And it's as simple as whenever you go to the supermarket, you pick up the packaging, have a look.
Yes.
And if at the back it says a produce of Israel,
put it back down, on the shelf.
Go for a replacement.
Go for a replacement.
And that's what we know so many non-Muslims have done that.
There is you see, if you look at the protest, there is lots of non-Muslims. They were in the protest, and also there is lots of non-Muslims.
The biggest protests have been with the majority non-Muslims
because they look at it as a humanitarian issue.
Okay, Sheikh. Other than that, we've given two solutions. How else can we support the Palestinians?
Right, of course. I mean,
is there any financial benefit?
That's it. There is all means. Especially, let us look at Gaza.
Yeah.
Because the Gaza situation is excuse my word, diabolical. 45% of the people without job or income.
How do they survive?
They're surviving on miracle. Surviving on miracle. A family, their breakfast, lunch, dinner, it is bread dunked in the tea.
Allah.
Yes.
That's all they're having.
That's all what they're having. Kids, they go to school one day, one brother, the next day, the other brother. Why? So they can swap shoes. We need to support these families.
How do you support them?
To me, there is, of course, well, you have met with the brother
Sheikh Muhammad who came last week.
Muhammad from Interpol. Interpol, they're doing a good job. There is, you know something, there is a young girl, a Palestinian girl who born and brought up in the UK. God bless her. Every Ramadan, she does fundraising. Every Ramadan, she raises about £5,000. This Ramadan, up to yesterday, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, she raised £40,000. This is, she supports orphanages, she supports what's called hospitals, medical centers, schools. What project they need sustainable things for them to last. Us individual, maybe we can sponsor a poor family.
Yeah.
May send them maybe direct $100, $200. Something is better than nothing.
Another misconception.
Yes.
The misconception is that the money we're sending from here, it doesn't get to them. Is that true? Because I want our viewers to be in confidence to know somebody who's Palestinian. Tell us, is the money actually going there?
Unfortunately, this is also, it is...
or is that just a conspiracy?
It is a conspiracy for the people to create more and more atmosphere and hatred among themselves. Listen, I'll be honest, there's the majority of it reached to its destination. It reached to the people they're going to.
Okay.
Unfortunately, maybe there is people, but when we send it in good faith, God is watching.
Sahih. So that's a financial contribution.
Yeah.
Can we support the Palestinians by traveling there?
See, the thing, I know all of us, we would like to go and pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Of course.
And I'm sure you would like to do it every Ramadan.
Every Ramadan.
See, but the thing, I look at it this way. I know we want to go and visit, but when we fly from Manchester to Ben Gurion or to Tel Aviv, we pay visa for whom? Israeli. So we take taxi, we go to Jerusalem. Okay, you go to Jerusalem, stay in Jerusalem in Arab hotels.
Yeah.
Deal with the people of Jerusalem shops.
Yeah.
Try to avoid as much as possible to spend your money with the occupiers. So there is still help, at least when they see you.
Can we actually physically travel right now? I mean, right now.
At this moment of time, no. At the moment, I think it is still a little bit, because I don't think so. The airport is fully opened yet.
Due to COVID.
How?
Fully operating, because during the 10 days of the conflict, all airplanes from Ben Gurion, Tel Aviv, or Led, as we call it, Led airport, they were diverted to Cyprus or Athens. Yeah.
Another thing what I heard was during the COVID, Israel wasn't giving vaccines to the Palestinians.
No, they weren't giving vaccines, and that's also as an occupier forces, they are obliged to vaccinate the people under occupation.
So are they currently being vaccinated or not?
There is what's called, there is a vaccination system going slowly but surely.
But it came very late. First
very
it was
late,
the
but
Jews, then the Palestinians.
It did not come through Israel. It came by a donor to the Palestinian Authority, and which is in return they distributed in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip.
No.
Yeah.
Any other way, Sheikh, that we can support Palestinians? We all make dua, of course. Financially, we want to support them. If possible, we travel there and we support them. How else can we support
Talk and educate the people, because we need the issue to stay up in front of everybody. Even if it's come to the stage of become boredom to talk about it, keep talking about the Palestinian issue. Show them videos, because nowadays we've got social media. It is the best media ever, better than this edited media. They choose to show you what they want you to see, and they tell you what suits their backer who paying the money for them. See, we need to keep talking. As I said, we are in Britain here. We need to put the pressure on the British government and the shadow government. We need to build more of a Palestinian what's called understanding of the Palestinian issue, and educate the people. Keep educating the people.
Barakallah, thank you very much for your time. I hope
Shukran,
our viewers have definitely taken a vital message. And I think the bottom line here is to keep this movement going. Keep it alive, keep mentioning of it. And realistically, if you really want to support them, financially support our Palestinian brothers by sending your monies there, by traveling there if possible, to give them your support in person. with your du'as, of course, we do support them. But most of all, if you want a change on a mass level, we really require us to lobby our MPs, for them to then lobby the House of Commons, the Parliament, for a resolution, for a change to take place. Until that does not happen, we don't see any major change taking place in the near future. And our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our mothers, those children are there, they are crying out for our support. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easier for them.
Inshallah.
They
Inshallah.
truly are our heroes.
Inshallah. Yep.
They are
Shukran,
heroes.
jazakallah
Even that
khair.
6-year-old, like the Sheikh was saying, I mean, just by speaking to those Palestinian children, they will uplift your iman.
Like the video,
the enthusiasm that they have, and the
Subhanallah.
courage that they show.
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar.
There's a video that I saw on Facebook on Monday, in which the Palestinians are throwing stones at the Israeli soldiers. They capture one of the Israeli children, a 7-year-old. They capture him and hold him in front of the Palestinians that were going to shoot him. This is how they threaten the Palestinians.
But yet those children won't give up, would they?
No.
They will continue to react. And Allah
Yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala give them strength, give them courage, and they
Alhamdulillah.
continue to support their families. And
Inshallah.
we inshallah will continue to support them.
Inshallah.
Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.